A very warm welcome to my community. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. As always, I'm pleased that you have joined us. Now, this week we continue our journey into the heart of Christmas traditions with three storytellers, Hal Gollop and the Jilts brothers. Together, they will share their cherished memories, exploring the customs that make this season so special. From the lively sounds of Christmas morning in Queen's Park to the joy of reciting pieces in their churches, they will uncover the historical roots and the enduring significance of these traditions as we celebrate the magic of Christmas through the voices of those who have lived and loved it in our communities.
There was another tradition which I should speak to you about. As young boys, we look forward on a Christmas morning to catch the 5 o'clock bus to go to Queen's Park. And you went to Queen's Park and you walked around and you mingled, and people would be dressed up in their finery. Now that tradition has been taken to another level. You see these people on Christmas nowadays in the park. But we went to hear the police band, and you went to buy an English apple. That is where you got that English apple on a Christmas morning. Oh yes. But that that Christmas dressing was particularly significant for boys especially, who got a new pair of shoes. Now, here you are walking around the village with your feet flat on the road every day. But you're going to get a new pair of shoes for Christmas, and you're going to put them on for the first time to wear to the park or to the church. And if those shoes were a little too tight, you were in trouble. You were in trouble, man. You would be scotching and hopping in these new shoes. But you had to break them in, so you didn't get a chance to break them in. You put them on for the first time. And that was something which led to a fairly painful experience of being dressed up in your new shoes and your finery. But that was part of the tradition.
As we continue to explore those cherished memories of Christmas, we move from the festive gathering at Queen's Park to the quieter yet equally meaningful celebrations in Six Main community. Here, the Jilts brothers share their experiences of attending Christmas morning services, a time of reflection and gratitude. They'll also recount the excitement of participating in Christmas programs, where they delivered recitations that added to the spirit of the season.
Yeah, when I was younger, I go to church on Christmas morning sometimes and so on. And me and my father was a Methodist local preacher. Sometimes we go to church with him and things like that. But I think more than that, it was a family time, and family meaning extended family, community as a family. We get together and we did a lot of things.
As children, we had to go to Sunday school. And although my father was a Methodist local preacher, we never attended Sunday school in Methodist Church. All our time of attending Sunday school was at the Six Men's Pentecostal Church. The pastor there was Pastor Ford. And coming on to Christmas, they would have a Christmas program, especially for the children. But the adults, you know, were there, and they have these, used to call them pieces. So you give each person a piece. Yeah. And depending on your age, depending on how long that piece, quote unquote, would be. And I never liked saying about reciting peace. You go up there on the stage and you had to salute, like a stupid soldier. You had to salute and say this piece. I didn't like that because I hated memorizing poetry. Up to now, I write poetry, and if you ask me to recite my poetry from memory, I can't do it.
I always wonder why the boys had to salute and the girls had to curtsy. But that was
the British colonial.
You had to salute when you say this piece.
In the British colonial time, because if you remember at school too, if you wanted to step out, to go to the bathroom and you approach the teacher's desk. Excuse me, sir.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
May I step up or whatever, you know?
And they used to have, but most of the churches would hold programs, carol programs and so on. And I remember in the early days, they would usually have something in the Esplanade in Spikestown that we also look forward to going and listening to the different church choirs, singing and so on. My dad used to be involved in that a lot because as a Methodist local preacher, and he was also into choir. Because at one point he was part of some...
They had a drama group.
Right.
We used to do drama.
Right.
And I remember doing the nativity play at Spikestown Boys School one time.
Right.
Most of the members were part from the Methodist Church in Spikestown.
Right.
I think Mrs. Gilmore was also involved in that because it not only did it collected, it did fundraising, collect money to buy toys and so on for children at the fairs and the bars, children home and so on. Yeah.
I featured prominently in those areas. 3 Sunday schools as a boy growing up and reciting at 3 churches and 3 different nights and so on. Church of God is the one which was my mother church. That was a Christmas night program. And of course there was a Baptist which was a stone's throw from my house. I lived just back of that church, Barbados Baptist Church. But as I grew older, I studied academic music at Combermere. And as a reasonably young teenager, I trained a choir because I was competent in reading the music and singing the solfa, what we call singing the solfa. And that was a tradition. And we had a lot of people in those villages who could sing the solfa. Some of them were not very expert at reading the lines, I mean the literature, the English, but they could sing the solfa correctly.
That's truly fascinating, seeing the solfa, a cherished tradition. Now exactly what is seeing the solfa, and why was it held in such significance during the Christmas celebrations?
Now, singing the solfa has to do with your ability, if you're not playing. There's vocal music and there's instrumental music. If you went to a piano, for example, which is the classical instrument for that, you can play what is written. But if you didn't have an instrument and you want to learn the tune, you had to sight read the music. So you went on the tonic solfa, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and all the semitones in between there. And that was taught to former generations at school, primary school. I developed the technique at Combermere doing academic music. But you pick up a piece of music unknown to you and you sing it. And just like a sight reading on an instrument, you pick up the music and play. You sang it. So we refer to that as singing the solfa. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And you hear the men in the shops, in the bar, singing those things correctly, especially hymns. They concentrated heavily on hymn singing. And singing the 4 parts and singing the solfa correctly. That was part of it.
Well, that explanation truly highlights the rich musical traditions of our past. Al now takes us back to those days of the community choir, and he shares how he was able to unite the voices of the community and create something special.
And one was able to get people from the village to form a choir to perform at a Christmas concert, a Christmas recital, if you want to call it that. And I had my fair share of that because of my own specialty, which was developed through my school career and so on. And as a chorister later on, as I grew older, of course, that was extended to a formal membership in the Anglican Church at St. Philip for a number of years, and the St. Michael's Cathedral for a number of years. So that too had a special feeling for me. Christmas, it was my birthday too. That never was a big thing. Sometimes I didn't forget it. I didn't remember it, sorry. Sometime in the afternoon, my mother may say, remember today is your birthday. And I was, yes. But Christmas for me was a very good time and very happy time. And looking back on it, I think the villages were the better for getting themselves immersed in the Christmas spirit. You know the song where it says, you wish Christmas, why can't it extend throughout the year? That there's a Christmas feeling which the merry men sing. Why can't this feeling extend throughout the year? Maybe it would not be the same thing. But because of that special feeling, that special concentration on these things, that made Christmas really, really special. Really special. As a youngster, we went along and we would help sing a few things. But that was mainly a thing for the adult gentlemen. You hear them in that song, two for a man and one for a child. Many children can come out at that time to sing no carolings. So I don't know which children they were asking you to give one to. 2 drinks for a man and one for a child. Peace on earth and mercy mild. But we did, and in the later years, as we grew up, we tried to develop it, to revive that carol thing. But it did not get very far because we were then going into what was becoming commercial Christmas. And people would go to a dance or disco and have a combo playing or something like that. No, we're having commercial music, as it were. And you go and you dance up or you listen, as the case may be. But we did have a little of that as youngsters growing up with the caroling.
We also had a thing with among the fellas and 6 men. At least the fellas in our age group. We would save up money and we would go to Elmer supermarket in Spikes. Now we would buy probably 2 or 3 bottles of wine and some other niceties, some snacks and so on. And we would hang out on Christmas bank holiday. We would hang out by a place we call the Bond. This is an old building. It's no longer, as a matter of fact, where Port Ferdinand Marina is now, on the upper side. That is where the Bond house was. And it had a nice garden. And we would hang out up there on Christmas bank holiday, just behind the mayor's house. A whole group of fellas. We would drink our wine, talk some foolish shit. And actually one year, we even cooked. A certain fella, we had a big pot and a small pot.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So the big pot went. Everybody ate and was full. One particular fella, I don't know if he want me to call his name, but one particular fella decided that he would take care of the other pot. And the small pot, he took care of the small pot. And it was a man, we sat down there and eat everything of his small pot.
Oh yeah. There was one of our friends, he's now deceased, David Maynard. David used to fancy that he was a big eater. So I challenged him. And he had this small pot of rice and a big pot. Everybody together ate out of the big pot, that was finished. Then the small pot remained, wasn't touched. And there's some meat that's all left over. So when everybody was finished now, the guy started to drink wine, I think. I said, well, before I drink my wine, can I have the remainder of the meat? Just throw it in the small saucepan with the rice that is there. And the guy said, what? What are you going to do with that? I said, I can eat it. And I sat down with the small pot of rice. I ate the small pot of rice myself. And the guy I think it caused David to realize that he was not the big eater that he was, And then we had our wine and so on, and it was a very nice time in terms of celebrating. And in those days, you used to go from house to house as well. So all of our friends in 6 Mains, we would go to each other's house, And when we got the house, their mother or my mother, they would slice the cake and the ham and share. It was a sharing thing. That thing. It was a sharing thing.
That is something that has died out in 6 months. As persons grew older and moved away, and the younger ones they didn't carry on that. And most of the people who live in 6 months actually, perhaps are people who come in, who have moved into the area since then.
But I would say that not only 6 months. This is something that has died out in Barbados, throughout Barbados, because I'm sure that if you ask other people in other communities, you know, they will say the same thing, that Christmas now is not as community oriented as it was.
But
you know, people tend to be more into the.
One of the things that was actually behind that is how closely knitted people in 6 months were. I mean, almost every 2 or 3 houses were related. People were related. Yeah. You had, like for instance, in my family, I'm a Jilks, but the Bens in 6 months are my cousins. The Gibbons are my cousins. You understand? So you had, and then you had the Maynards. Although we weren't related, my great aunt was married to Graves, and the Graves and the Maynards were related. So Frank and I used to spend a lot of time in the 6 months village by the Maynards, you know, and they would spend quite a time down by us too. And that sort of camaraderie between people who were related but not related, if you understand what I mean, yeah. Helped to pull families together. Well, now it
was a more close-knit community, yeah. You know. And I say Christmas. I hope it continues to be a time for family and communities to celebrate in whatever way.
Well, today most of our toys are store-bought, and of course they are all readily available at the People's Market. However, in those days, children in the community often crafted their own toys, adding a personal and creative touch to their playtime at Christmas time.
Well, we didn't make them for gifts, because all children used to develop the skill of making those toys. A corned beef tin made a lovely front for a tractor. Or only this week, a friend of mine in the chat was speaking about a 4 cows tin, milk tin. You cut it off and you box the wheels in, and you had a nice little roller, we called them. And these were the things that made us happy. And boys were taught to make those things, where girls were dolls and things of that nature. But boys were the more outdoor activity with their little tractor cart you pull in. Especially Christmas too was just before the crop season. And you had to get your little tractor to draw canes. Those canes you were drawing were the peelings from the canes which you're sucking. And you pull in your tractor and along with that. And that created a spirit of, what should I say, industry. You were taught how to make things. You were to create things, not only make things, but to create them. And that too had its tremendous benefit for persons of my generation. A boy would go to town now, send his mother to go and buy some very sophisticated toy or a tablet or a cell phone or something like that. But I think as far as possible that present generations should be reminded of what happened before and be encouraged as far as possible to reach back to see how previous generations lived and how they lived within the limited capabilities that were available, how they made do with what they had, and how that spirit made them very happy people. And more should be done in our educational system to encourage students, young children, to go back. All houses were not bungalows. Every boy did not go to school in a car. That kind of thing. As a matter of fact, if you were lucky enough to ride a bicycle to school, you were all right. Some children now could not imagine going to school other than in the front seat or the back seat of a car. But it's a sign of the times. But it is important, it is very important, that we capture these old traditions to show how the country developed. And every attempt is made to hold on to those values that make people more civilized, develop a well-rounded individual. You can appreciate the aesthetics that come with things around you. That's one of the functions of education, to create a love for the aesthetic. And Christmas is a good time for doing things like that. I mean, as I said, we should do these all through the year. But because everybody is so concentrated and focused on this period of Christmas, it's a good time that to try to remind people what Christmas means, what it brings about, what it has brought about in the past, and allow us to see that there has always been a better way of doing things, a more economical way of doing things, and the kind of satisfaction you got from doing those things, which even were very, very simple, they had significant meaning, and the various skills they developed in doing those things. Now, of course, you came down to the Christmas, right down to Old Years, watch night services, and people prepared for Old Year's night. The party thing is something which grew as people again became more affluent. An Old Year's night party or so on. But an Old Year's night thing was within the village tradition, an event to look forward to. Again, there would be singing and caroling and so on. And as young boys, one of our objectives was to watch out the night and see the sun rising. That's where the watch night thing came from. I remember. The fellas never forgave me for this. The fellas agreed one night to watch this night out. And I was with them. And we were all on the nearby step, a shop step, less than a stone's throw away from where I lived. And we wanted to see the sunrise. And I was there trying to find some comfortable place to watch out this thing. And when about 2 o'clock or so, I said to the fellas, I said to myself, hey, you know, man, this thing really too hard. And I told the fellas, I might hope they come back. And I walked a few paces away, never got back. I was never forgiven the next day for leaving the fellas. But the fellas in Burton is central, very, very central. One of the things too, they would ride to Crane Bay or Foul Bay, take a ride and watch the sun rise up there. And they were happy to see that kind of thing. Of course, the churches had their own watch night service, That watch night tradition extended from the more formal Anglican tradition to those of the more Pentecostal religions. And in some of the villages, as the village churches, the Pentecostal, the Baptist type, there would be washing of feet. They would wash feet during watch night. And that too was something which boys in the village found very fascinating. But again, it was an opportunity to wish all your friends and neighbors, to extend greetings for a healthy and a happy new year, best wishes, and so on. And that again spoke of the kind of togetherness which was a characteristic of village communities. It taught a lot about humanity. You were taught useful lessons of being your brother's keeper, that you could better get along if there was cooperation and sharing with your brothers in every possible way, whether it was in cultural things, in sharing scarce food resources, whatever it was. Unfortunately, a lot of it has moved away from us. As I said, because of commercialism. The spirit of giving has gradually moved away because the resources are not so plentiful. So you may not have to give. So that that old song, Christmas is Coming, put a penny in the old man's hat, and whatever you were able to give, it's not like it used to be. But that is where we have it. We enjoyed Christmas. We look forward to it. And it used to appear to a young boy growing up, a young child growing up, that Christmas used to take 5 years to come. Because you look forward to Christmas. And Christmas, you hear this, Christmas comes but once a year and every man must have a good cheer. But that Christmas comes once a year, it appears like it used to appear as though it used to take 5 years to come. Now you look around twice and Christmas is back on you, especially if you've not completed what you had to do. But all of that has to do with how commercialism has taken over. And we've all become victims of that commercialism. And maybe too much of that. We've allowed ourselves to too easily become victims because we have not resisted that commercialism as much as we should. And in order to resist it, we should have been holding on to the spiritual elements that are associated with Christmas. Peace, love, goodwill towards men, sharing, giving, and so on. And respect for God, respect for your fellow man, and all of that being captured in the spirit of Christmas, I think would act as a buffer, if one may say, to the mass commercialism that is almost thrust upon us and which we seem not to be able to avoid.
Wow, heartfelt memories of how faith and community shaped their Christmas celebrations. As my community comes to the end of yet another year, the 5th year that is, I wish to express my deep gratitude to all of you who invited us into your neighborhoods and shared your stories that no doubt enrich the lives of all of us. Thank you for your faithfulness, your commitment, and that enduring community spirit, that spirit of always looking out for one another. To our viewers from around the world who stay connected to Barbados through this series, we are truly grateful for your support. Before I go, I must extend a special thank you to our sponsor, Sir David Seal, for his unwavering support, which makes my community possible. I'm Sherwood McCaskey, and I'm grateful to all of you. Every blessing.